beginning with the reading of the book Wayel Kati, written by Miss Linthoi Chanu. Linthoi Chanu is a writer from Manipur whose central area of interest includes Manipuri folklore, legends, and mythologies. Most of her works are conceived by memory, identity, and imagination coming together to bring out the richness of her culture and art. As a storyteller, chasing after stories to share them with the world is her passion.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold your breath and brace yourselves, for what you're about to witness is no ordinary tale. This is a story of courage, born in the face of the unimaginable, of shadows that whisper, walls that shift, and a labyrinth alive with secrets older than time itself. As the characters stood at the mouth of the labyrinth, an eerie silence enveloped them. The ancient walls, shrouded in moss and mystery, seemed to whisper secrets of trials untold. They hesitated just for a moment before stepping into the shadowy maze, knowing that this was a point of no return. The labyrinth was no ordinary structure. Its walls shifted as if alive, rearranging paths and closing escape routes. At times, the air grew thin and the oppressive darkness played tricks on their minds. Strange sounds echoed around them, sometimes a low growl, other times a haunting melody, testing their courage with every step. Inside, they faced a series of trials. First came the puzzle of light, a seemingly unsolvable challenge where they had to redirect beams to unlock a hidden door. Time was their greatest enemy. Then came the Chamber of Whispers, a cabin filled with voices that spoke their deepest fears and insecurities. Doubt began to creep in, threatening to unravel their resolve, yet it was their bond and trust in one another that allowed them to silence the torment and press on. The greatest challenge lay ahead, the beast of the labyrinth. Towering and fierce, it was a manifestation of their own doubts and conflicts. It demanded not brute force, but unity and strategy. Combining their skills and unwavering teamwork, they defeated the beast, shattering illusion and proving their resilience. Finally, as they reached the center, the labyrinth surrendered its greatest treasure, not gold or jewels, but the understanding that unity, courage, and trust were the keys to overcoming any challenge. Emerging victorious, they realized that the labyrinth had been as much a test of their character as it was of their wits. Ladies and gentlemen, the labyrinth is more than a setting in Wayel Kati. It is a metaphor for the struggles we face in life. Just like the characters, we may encounter shifting paths, situations where we have to face our fears, confront our inner demons. But if we walk with courage and stand together, we too can find our way out stronger and wiser than before. Thank you.
Thank you for the thoughtful depiction. Linthoi Chanu is a dynamic 29-year-old writer and educator from Imphal West, Manipur. She holds a master's degree in English literature from Pondicherry University and served as an assistant professor in Mysore. Ms. Chanu has an impressive publishing portfolio, including children's books and speculative fiction, with notable works such as Abok, Who Took My Tooth, and Wayel Kati. Her contributions to the literature world have been recognized through various awards, including WOW Award, the Author Award, and Manipur Cultural Forum Award. Passionate about cultural activism, she continues to inspire through her writing, making a significant impact on the literary landscape of Northeast India. I now request our esteemed dignitary, Mr. Sanjeev Chopra, to gift a bouquet to the author, Ms. Linthoi Chanu. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. For the fourth moderating session, I'd like to welcome on stage Ada Patania.
Good morning. My name is Ada Patania and I am from grade 11. It is an honor to meet you, Mom, truly.
Likewise.
So, first of all, I would like to ask, how's your experience been today in our school?
Incredible. You know, when I started writing, none of this was actually in the plan or even thought of. So, it's always overwhelming, but always also memorable and the most best moment ever.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today we're here with author Linthoi Chanu, who is going to help us soar through the pages of her book, Wayel Kati, and help us understand how invaluable our connection with folklore and mythology truly is. So, ma'am, during my time reading this book, I've especially been captivated by the illustrations of this book, such as the hybrid tiger Kikoba. Right. So, growing up, you don't see much illustrations in novels, but this novel caught my eye because of its illustrations. So, could you explain why an illustration actually influences the reader to read the book?
Yes, a lot of the stories in Wayel Kati are inspired by folk tales, and as folk tales goes, it is an oral traditions which is passed down from mouth to mouth through generations. So I was always intrigued by the idea of visualizing all these monsters and all these creatures that our ancestors always talked about. So, very fortunately for me, the illustrator is my brother, cousin brother, and we spent like almost 2 years staying together, digesting the manuscript, developing the manuscript together. So we are always talking about the monster whenever we go, whenever we gather. So it is a very personal thing, and we put a lot of effort in it. And that is how the book itself is the first book where such creatures are depicted with illustrations.
That's truly interesting to know, ma'am. It must have been a lot of work for the course of 2 years. Now, Laiba, the main character, who's a 9-year-old boy, is truly one brave soul, ladies and gentlemen. But considering his age and how young he is, and the other guardians who are much older and obviously have much experience than him, how do you think that this young boy could be the perfect pillar of leadership in this group?
Yeah, so Laiba is actually a character that is also based on a very vague characters from our historical book. There is a manuscript called Setaro Kumbaba, which is the chronicle of royal history of Manipur. So there, this name is there, and it's very striking for me because he is someone who can do a lot of things. Yeah, and the folklore also goes that he knows magic and all. And the concept of him being 8 years is my impulsive thought when developing the manuscript. I was like, why does it have to be an old man with a very wise thing to say? Sometimes it could be a very young people with a very insightful mind, someone who listens very closely, someone who observes a lot. And sometimes when I look at children, they sometimes impart us knowledge that we never thought of. Because young people have this tendency of thinking out of the box. They are not influenced by any rules and situations that we are enforced with right now as adults. So I was inspired by that thought, and I realized that we could do some experiment.
I'm sure the young audience sitting here today is truly inspired by your words. So, moving on, ma'am, the theme of sacrifice truly runs deeply in the story. Was there a character you thought while making the book who you really put through the trial of efforts into the book?
Sacrifice is, I think, it's very close to my heart, especially in a moment like this when Manipur is boiling in tensions and violence for the past 2 years now, almost 2 years now. So, in order to survive in a very harsh and unpredictable terrain, we are exposed to a lot of situations where we depend on sacrifice and we depend on compassion and hope. So from these elements, the stories reflect itself on the characters developing through the essence of sacrifice. Doesn't mean that you have to lose yourself in sacrificing something. It stands for a cause. And most of the time, sacrifice means it returns tenfold in a different way.
That's really interesting, ma'am. Truly, Manipur is going through a lot, and I feel like this book, which really talks about sacrifice, talks about the true value of unity and friendship one must require to overcome situations. So, moving on to the next question, it's again about Laiba. So, Laiba's foresight actually plays a really big role in shaping the story because he's the only one who knows about what's to come than compared to the other guardians. So why do you think such an ability, such as foresight in a fantasy novel, was very important to implement so that the other characters can see progress?
Yes, so character of Laiba, I think lots of fantasy stories revolves around time travel and prophecy and seeing future. which is something we human, as a human, we crave. Even a very scientific mind, say Stephen Hawking, talking about the relativity theory, it's all beyond our reach, but this is something basic human crave. So I think that those instinctual elements are also reflected in our fantasy stories. And Liber, even though he is young, the plot itself couldn't have worked with his insights. So a lot of the choices we make, we always think what could be the future. Even though right now we cannot predict what will happen, but we all work together for a future. We have envisioned our future in some way or the other. So I think that's the elements that is being put forward.
Yeah, so Laiba's foresight was actually very interesting to me because you don't really see characters who already know what's to come in many novels. So I really found that very interesting in the book. Now, Mom, considering that we are currently in South India and this book is completely based off Manipur folklore, and not only us, but your audience has been completely wide ranged, right? So I want to understand how has the response been to Wayel Kati then compared to Manipur people and versus the new people who do not really know about Manipur folklore at all?
Okay, that's a really interesting questions. And very recently, I have a conversation with one of our fellow writer for Manipur, and he was very frank, and it's a very friendly conversation. How can you do all this? We are very not very confident that our book will be widely read across our Siliguri corridor. Because our reach, we feel like our reach ends in the Siliguri corridor. Other than nothing. And how come you expect all this? And I said, who said I expect all this? I didn't even know that. The thing is, there is I think we can say that I am too naive to understand that books written by people from Manipur or other Northeast are not going to be well received. I don't have that in my mind. I don't know actually. Because I come from a rural background and I studied in Mysore, and I don't have that experience that people are always curious. Yes, there is a very less information about Manipur, but people are always curious, and I love to talk about Manipur. I'm always there to explain this is that. So I take pleasure in all that. So I didn't even know that I'm going to be, looked down upon, or I'm going to be discriminated. I have no thought in my mind. So this naivety helps, I think. So I was full on passionate about writing this. Like it's very genuine passions that was reflected in my writing is because of that naivety. Maybe it is there. We cannot deny that there is no discrimination and problem with connection with the rest of the Northeast states. There are, but also I think it also it should encourage us to have more passions to write and reach out. And I think human connection is always ready to happen. Especially in our era, global era, human connections are so ready to happen. So.
Yeah, truly, ma'am. Manipur folklore, it's my first time reading a book about Manipur folklore and mythology. And ladies and gentlemen in the audience, I can tell you that this book will truly open your eyes about a mythology that you have no idea about. We grow up reading books such as Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, which incorporate Greek mythology and other mythologies. But we must learn to accept and learn about mythology and folklores from which our country originates from. And I feel this book is one of the best representations of that matter. Thank you, ma'am, for that answer. So, the concept of enough, but not too much, is about the Wayel Kati, which is also the scissors of fate, which are being retrieved by the guardians, yes? But that also has provided a lot of interpretations of greed and imbalance in the human society, ma'am. So, I would like to understand, in your point of view, how does this message resonate with today's social and environmental cause?
Yes, even in Chinese and most Asian culture, there is this belief of balance, the yin and yang. And even in this, I think it reflects all mythological stories have this story of balance. Even in Indian mythology also there is a huge message of balance. Shiva have both the power of destructions and also the concept of creations, and all the gods have this power of balance, of create and then destructions. It comes in a cycle. Yes. So from this, what we can learn is that even in our, even as a human being also, we have this tendency of a recurring process when it comes to a cause. We fight for a cause and then we see some result, and it is only natural that we enjoy our accomplishment. And in that process, sometimes we lost sight of what that constant. We have to be consistent. Yeah, consistent with our effort as long as we are alive as a human being, because this world will continue. It's not just my phase, my era, and we are done, right? So each and every like we have to be so conscious, but at the same time, we human have a life to live. We thought that it is only natural, but through our culture, through our history, we are always taught to be mindful. So Vatapadava Pinabio, that is the exact Manipuri word phrase, and it is inculcated in Manipuri culture to use it as a prayer. It is actually a prayer phrase. Like, so I was inspired by it because it says, not more, not less. Just give me enough. That's it. We are not asking God to give us unlimited source of wealth, unlimited source of happiness, because without sadness there is no happiness. Without our struggle there is no success. So like that, it inspired us to reflect on our environmental cause. If we don't pursue towards it, then there will be no cool summer. If we don't work for it, if we don't enjoy the AC, we can simple things, and then comes with the greater responsibility. It reflects from that small steps, right? That's what I'm thinking, right?
That's a truly interesting perspective, ma'am. So moving on, I must say this, Miss Chanu, but Keepam is one of my favorite characters in the book. I would give you that. Keepam. Yeah. So I'm sorry for the pronunciation. He's one of my favorite characters, and I want to understand his humor and his sarcasm is quite refreshing in the serious themes of the novel, yes? So I would like to understand your perspective on how you came around to make this character and how you kept this feelings of sarcasm still alive in the serious themes of the book.
So Kaiba is a okay.
It's okay, ma'am. So my favorite character, Kaliba, right? He's got this sense of humor, sarcasm, which keeps up the refreshing part of the novel still alive during the serious themes of the book. So I would like to understand how you came around to creating such a character, which you think would be so important to incorporate in the serious themes of the book.
So I think a lot of bickering happens in a very, in a normal teenage setting. I think it's a very common language when I grew up also. It reflects on my personal understanding. We feel like it's also the phase where we feel like we have to be cool in some way because that's the expressions and the notions we feel at that very point. And regardless of the era they're existing, it doesn't change much. So I feel like it is connections, a form of connections we can establish with the characters, being lively and bickering with each other and being sarcastic. So it's like it shows their humane and very ordinary sides. They are guardians, but they are not heroes. They're filled with flaws. They are always disoriented. They are always confused. They are always fighting with each other. We always do that, right? So it doesn't mean that they are imperfect. They are heroes, regardless. So we could also be imperfect, but still work for a cause, right?
That's interesting, ma'am. That's really great to know about my favorite character as well. So, ma'am, to finish off, you've created this world full of rich set of rules and a lot of imagination. I would like to know What was your favorite part of this world? Something that you didn't include in the book, but but you would be including in the future books.
I think it's about the book was set in a very whimsical period, in a very far off past, distant past. It's a fantasy world. We don't even know if actually that kind of situations ever come across. Like, obviously, the monsters and all, we believe that exist. So, in my future book, I was thinking of putting more effort in also try to reflect our current situations, right? I already mentioned that a lot of unforeseen circumstances, unpredictable circumstances happened, and it also, as a writer, obviously, we have to absorb all this experience, and definitely it is going to reflect on our writings. That's what the least as a writer, as a person who are living through that crisis can do and should do.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that insight. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's been a pleasure and my absolute honor to be able to talk to you today here. Every reader has a dream to meet the author of their favorite books, and I dare say that Wayel Kati has quickly climbed up my list of favorites. I truly hope that everyone here has something to take away from this session. I hope you enjoyed this just as much as I did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ada. The floor is now open to the spectators for asking questions.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is
Hi.
Pranav Sanjeev. I'm from class 8C, and I have one question for you. So, the dragon-headed serpents test the guardian's courage and unity. Do these creatures symbolize the internal fears and struggles that the characters must overcome to succeed?
Yes, definitely.
I'm Arya from Goodard School. You are known for repopularizing the Manipuri folk stories and mythologies. When writing these stories, did you have to edit the stories so that it would attract the interest of the youth?
Yes, there is something called creative license. Yes, we have to apply some sort of technique if we are talking in a professional line. Then there is a handful of editors, publishers. When a manuscript becomes books, obviously it goes through a lot of processes like our other authors, esteemed author, have already spoken about. And when it comes to the folklores, since it is a retelling and inspired by the stories, the versions are very different, and it have a lot of personal touch to the stories. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. So I am J.K. Gautam, and I have a question for you. So, what were you expecting the audience to feel when you were writing the book? Like, for example, suspense or mystery, something like that.
I want them to feel anything that comes when you read a book, because as most author will agree, once the story is published, it is not just what we want to say and what we intend. It's also a lot of what readers absorb. So I'm hoping that the message, the universal message, are all shared, and the rest is the reader's free imaginations.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Advika from NPS International. So, at the end of the book, the New Chaos chapter, we see the ministers trying to manipulate the character Lungchum into, going against the throne and stuff. I wanted to know, why did you choose that character to be manipulated? Out of, Ivan could have been manipulated since he's the king and he could have directly done something. Why did you choose Lungchum to be manipulated instead?
Wow. So I have a very philosophical kind of inspiration for all this, and I can go on talking about all those, but to sum it up, I think that most powerful people are at the risk of being manipulated. more power you have, more people will be always eyeing you to manipulate. So if our willpower are not strong, if our sense of accountabilities are not strong, then there will always be people who will try to manipulate, because power attracts, a lot of unseen things, unpredictable things, and most often it is not always good and virtuous, right? So, and Lungchum is the most powerful, most majestic kind of creatures in the story. So obviously, I think he attracted the unfortunate incident at last.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Maya, and my question for you is, are there any plans for a sequel?
I am hoping, yes, I wish to write another book. Yeah.
Thank you, audience. I'd now like to welcome on stage our managing trustee, Ms. Priyamata Srinivasan, to give the memento to Ms. Linthoi Chanu. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Ms. Chanu, for that fascinating discussion.